January 16th, 2023. Before approval of the agenda, we're just going to go to a recess to see if we can figure out a landline.
This is gonna get really convoluted, so I'm just gonna have to.
Okay.
There we go. You betcha. We are doing the same. Apologies.
Headphones with a mic. Because then you just play those. Okay, one of those suddenly made my mic work.
Is that you? I can't hear.
Can everybody hear?
Councillor Norbury, you can hear us. Councillor Noxana?
Yep.
Yes.
Councillor Julik?
Yes.
You can hear us though? Okay.
Okay, I think this is
Staff's good? Okay. Approval of the agenda, please. Recommendation? Councillor Dussault?
That the January 16th, 2023 regular council meeting agenda be adopted as presented.
Seconder, Councillor Hoffman. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Adoption of the minutes, January 3rd, 2023, regular meeting of council minutes. Recommendation, please. Councillor Dussault.
That the January 3rd, 2023 regular council meeting minutes be approved
Seconder,
as presented.
Councillor Clickash. All in favor? Carried. Business arising from the minutes, council? Zoom, any business arising from the minutes? Okay, staff? Okay. Delegations, is the one joined? Okay. Derek Prue at GMHL West Jr.A Hockey Club to provide an update on the status of the TR Steel Kings in Tumbler Ridge.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can. Welcome, Mr. Prue. The floor is yours for the update.
Thank you very much. Thank you for hearing me today. Sorry, I'm trying to turn my video on, but I can't quite figure it out from this new laptop. So hopefully audio is okay if I can't figure it out.
Yeah, we can hear you very well.
Great. Yeah, I guess we've been in a bit of a putting the fires out mode since the passing of Andre Payette, and you know, thank you for your patience thus far. It's been a little bit of obviously a lot of moving parts from our end. This is not a kind of ordinary circumstance, so. I've been negotiating with the board and talking with the GMHL kind of head office. They have approved us for I guess a 1-year postponement to kind of initiate operations in Tumbler Ridge. I guess outside of that, that still leaves, you know, obviously some unfinished business. We're still trying to wrap our head around the former ownership group on, you know, agreements that were made, and I guess, you know, some of those types of things, which is hard to do with no one there. Myself personally, we're in a position to see what we could move forward with this year, and it was determined that we could you know, kind of make a go of Mackenzie. Obviously in the BC footprint we had 2 separate you know, kind of I guess mini footprints. Tumbler Ridge and Mackenzie were you know, travel partners, for lack of a better term, and the same thing with Kitimat and Burns Lake. So Mackenzie was just a little bit further ahead, obviously, with being in the league last year. So, you know, that's kind of where I have been, you know, more or less forced to put my energy in. I will be the GM and head coach of that team for the balance of this year, and make sure, you know, we get over the finish line. Then, you know, at that time we can really start to entrench and you know, see where things are going to be, you know, what the possibilities are for next year. So I guess the first things are with regards to the district of TR, you know, I guess what the stance is, if you know, if you would be open to you know, another run at next year, then we would look at, you know, from our end, the feasibility of that. And you know, and I think from my experience with Tumbler Ridge, I think there is support. I think there's fan support. you know, I think it could work, but we're kind of, you know, at this stage right now we're still obviously as many questions as answers, but I guess I'll start with that preamble and you know, take any questions that might be from the floor.
Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us for tonight's meeting via Zoom. Questions from council? Councillor Noberry.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka, and thank you, Mr. Prue, for coming to speak with us. You know, when I met with you when you came in, and I really support, you know, next level hockey that you're bringing, and I definitely want to see your success. I did have a question for you, and, you know, shoot me down if you need to, but it goes to some agreements made by the former ownership group. Some concerns have been brought to me about sponsorship agreements that have been made. And I'm just kind of curious from your side of how that should be handled moving forward, or how that should be handled currently. What I mean is, do people who have engaged in sponsorship agreements, do they speak to the former ownership group? Do they speak to the GMHL? And along those sort of lines, also, if there's any season ticket holders. Yeah, that's kind of my question for now.
That's a great question, and there's no easy answer to that. I guess you know, I'll talk about first the GMHL West West Division is you know, that is where I come in. So I'm the executive director of the West Division. So right now the West Division has the option for the Tumbler Ridge organization since it was defaulted on. So the GMHL, although anyone is always welcome to go to them, I would be a much better point of contact. You know, unfortunately, and to be quite honest, you know, I'll admit I haven't had the answers probably that everyone wants to hear, you know, to this point, because I'm really still trying to wrap my head around it. What I have asked and what I will, you know, put a blanket, you know, comment if you're talking with anyone or anyone wants to speak with me. First of all, my cell number is very readily available and I can give it to you all. If anyone wants to speak with me personally ever, again, I might not have the answers, but I'll do my best. You know, what we are asking for is for sponsors that and season tickets for that matter, but for anyone that has existing agreements with the organization, I would really appreciate copies of those agreements. That would really be a good starting point for me. I was given, you know, forwarded nothing from the previous group, so I'm really at a standstill. So if someone says that they have a $1,000 or $2,500, you know, whatever the amount is that the sponsorship is, I really need to have a look at that so that, you know, so that we can do a proper audit on what's been done and what's been promised. You know, we're not really in a position where, you know, where we can give a whole bunch of refunds, but it would be, as a starting point, again, good just for us to know what has been promised or what has exchanged, because we don't have any accounting, we don't have bank records. So we're really at square one. So the first thing is we would like to, you know, make whole on any promises. You know, when we do start there, that would be the great thing. Anybody, if they have season tickets, obviously next year, if everything is okay and we can start, we would honor those. They wouldn't have to pay. You know, but right now we can't just, we don't have a blank check where we can just write checks to people that, you know, that tell us that they spent money with the former ownership group, although I would love to do that. And maybe we will do that, and I'm not ruling that out, but right now we don't even know what agreements were entered into. So that would be kind of a necessary starting point for us. And then we would just kind of, you know, go from there as we move forward.
Perfect, thank you. Council? Derek, I guess my question would be, do you have an idea of how many season ticket holders are out there? that would have bought season tickets for this year, 2022, 2023?
I don't, but if I had to guess, I would say it's 10 or under.
Okay,
I don't, I think, I've had, I think 4 or 5 reach out to me directly. I imagine there's more than that, but to me, I would think that if there were people out there that had spent that money on season tickets, I think I would know the majority of them. Maybe I wouldn't, but I've heard from 4, I think 4, maybe 5. So I don't think, and I'm not including corporate because usually there's season tickets that are included on the corporate side. So I'm talking to just individuals that would have signed up and paid for season tickets.
okay, thank you for that. Councilor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. Thank you for your previous response, Mr. Prue. I can appreciate this difficult situation for a lot of us, and thank you for taking the tough questions. I had a question regarding the players that were signed up with the Steel Kings. Is there maybe I shouldn't be asking this, but is there a plan for them? Are they allowed to move on to other leagues? Are they going to be playing in Mackenzie? Just kind of get some questions.
Great question. There's nothing stopping them from going to any other leagues because we're not affiliated with anybody else. So I believe a couple of them may have went to a competing league to ours. The only player that had reached out to me was the captain, Mr. Okamau. Again, I left it till last minute because we're trying to figure out what's going on, but he requested that he would want to go to Fox Creek. So as of today, I did allow his rights to go to Fox Creek because I want to see him play. He is the only player of the 6 that were signed to cards that did reach out to me. I tried to reach out to all of them. The only one that I did hear from was with Mr. Okamau, and as of he probably doesn't even know yet. But the Fox Creek coach will be trying to get him to because he said he has relatives in Fox Creek area. So we did make efforts, but I think some of them made other plans. Shortly after they were told that the team wasn't moving forward.
Okay. Any other questions from council? Guess I got a couple, and one would be the comment you just made in regards to your cell number. You'll just email that to our CAO?
Yeah, or I can just tell you all of it right now.
You can go ahead.
Yeah, 780-905-0447.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. The other question I would have is I believe we have outstanding invoice from the district of Tumbler Ridge side. Have we been in contact with you at all?
Yes, I think it's off the top of my head, it's right over $800, I believe. And we'll be clearing that up this month for sure.
Okay, appreciate that. Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. To be honest, I would still like to see the GMHL succeed in Tumbler Ridge, and I'm just kind of curious if maybe like moving forward, we can sort of look at Mackenzie and how they succeed, and how maybe you can give us some tips moving forward and how we can make the GMHL team a success here in Tumbler Ridge, because I know like leading up to this and speaking with yourself, Mr. Prue, I really bought into the vision that the GMHL could bring to Tumbler Ridge, that next level of hockey, the community involvement. And, I would definitely appreciate any advice or tips you can give us on how we can, ensure that if next year is a possibility, how we can make that a success and keep it going moving forward.
Sure, that's a great comment. I think one of the keys to Mackenzie and really any of the team successes, and this goes, kind of with the trial and error. This is the team, the league's been around for 19 years. This is our 4th year. So whether or not you do it intentionally, there ultimately ends up on our successful teams, kind of a group of local advocates. Sometimes they're called board. Some people don't, some groups don't like to call it a board just because of some negative connotations or the insinuation that there might be a fiduciary duty or anything like that. But a board, a booster club, friend of the team, I think that that is really a really key, and I think we can have some of those people from Mackenzie, not just Mackenzie. Burns Lake is a really good example of those individuals. And it's it's not like it's a full-time job, but to connect the dots in any new community for outsiders, it's it's 100 times factor if you have 4 or 5 people that are already in the community that know, oh, we need this. Oh, here's where you go. Oh, where can we get the players volunteering? Oh, okay. Here's a volunteer group, or here's the person that's already kind of heading that up. That would be my biggest, I guess. And I really think I spend a fair amount of time in Tumbler Ridge, and I tried to kickstart that, and I think it was on the right track. When we had the exhibition game last year, I thought it was fairly well attended. The staff at the rec center were, I will say, for any of my, of the 10 locations that we've been in, for the first time to come in blind, the Tumbler Ridge group at the rink is probably the number one out of any, for coming in and not really know what to expect, for the help that we had for that game was unbelievable for the staff. So I think I don't think it's really a huge leap to get there. I think if we start early, that that is easy to do. And with our I guess with our business model that allows us to go into smaller venues, into smaller markets, that's kind of, that works hand in hand with that. So we would be open to any and all, local involvement. It's really, that's kind of a key to success. So if you have anyone that may want to be on the board or anything like that, again, my number, we would be open to having, having a group of advocates that would help connect those dots, especially during the off season, because most times there isn't a full-time staff member in the community until, August or September, as a rule of thumb.
Okay, any other questions from council? So just to follow up to that, Mr. Prue, I appreciate your openness about it. Do you look at coming back into Tumbler Ridge to see if you can make a go of it, whether it's looking for, people to join a volunteer board or trying to organize something so that you can see if it will lift off for the 2023-2024 season?
Yeah, I really do. And I think, there's a lot of different ways to making teams work. Our goal isn't to own all of the teams. Our goal is to come, negotiate a favorable lease, which we certainly have in Tumbler Ridge, and then wait for local partnership, municipal partnership, local investment to come, and out of our other 9 teams, 7 are individually owned. So our my job is to come in and try to start something and get the right people in place. But we are getting that ball rolling, and that's not a necessity. Our business model works in the absence of that, but anyone that wants to work with us, it is it's a really good business model once it's up and running. That first year is always tough, but even Burns Lake, Mackenzie, and Kitimat, they all have 20 plus players now. They started with 10 or 12, and now next year they'll have 10 or 12 before they even start, because that's about how many players usually come back. So I think the groundwork really is there. It's just getting a few pieces of the puzzle, and obviously having the right operator there. But there again, that's much easier to do if we start the process now, because there's a lot of good, really high-end coaches and GMs that are available as soon as seasons are done, because coaches are on a year-to-year contract. So once the season's done, you've got a very deep talent pool. But as it goes on and you get closer to August and September, that pool gets pretty shallow because all the good guys are taken. So I think having these discussions now and having someone that can be announced, shortly after this year as a general manager would be very helpful. And and then you've got a full-time person to be answering these type of questions and be hands-on.
Okay, appreciate that. Any questions from council? All right, well, thank you, Mr. Prue, for joining us. I think you can reach out to staff if the contract needs to be re-looked at by council. I think you can reach out to our CAO, and we can go that way if we need to extend or something like that on your side.
Okay, thank you very much.
You bet, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, moving on to delegations, Tumbler Ridge Global Geopark and Tumbler Ridge Museum. Manda Maggs, Executive Director of the Global Geopark, and Zena, Executive Director of TR Museum Foundation, regarding introductions and invitation for an event and information session from both organizations. Welcome, table is yours. Oh, here comes the mic. Oh, sorry, Chief Curry.
Good evening. Thank you for having us, first of all. We're going to keep it pretty short and sweet, I think. It's a pretty light topic. Basically, we wanted to come here tonight so that you could see us in person, see our faces, get to know us a little bit, and that's kind of what this invitation is all about. I hope you've had a chance to read your invitation letter. Basically, the museum and the Geopark, we have decided that we've really revived our relationship in our organizations and aligned things quite well, and I think we're ready to sort of bring our partners a little bit more into that fold. So we thought this was a great opportunity with a lot of new folks on council to host a sort of fun social, but also an information session so that you can get to know our organizations, what our priorities are, what we're working towards, and how we fit into things, because we do come up quite a bit when we talk about strategic planning, tourism strategy, things like that. So we just thought it was a really good opportunity for us to get together, share, a beverage and a snack, and just have a nice time and open the floor to questions. So, and Zena, who's sitting right here beside me, she has graciously offered the museum to host, which gives us another great opportunity, which is to do a behind-the-scenes tour. So we hope that, you would say yes and come on February 1st. And we've also extended that invitation, of course, to Aline and Therese and any other staff that you deem appropriate.
Perfect. Thank you. Just for the council on the Zoom, we had a invitation letter stuck at our wickets this evening when we all came in, and it's for February 1st at 6 p.m. at the museum. So, any questions from council? Councilor Clickash.
Yes, I keep getting a lot of phone calls and emails from people that are working on your building, your new building there.
Yes.
Can you give us a breakdown on where you're at there and
Well, that's a topic that
how this thing's working? Because
Yeah.
they're complaining they're not getting paid, things like that, and I just want to know from you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, that project is definitely ongoing and taking a lot longer than we expected. That was something that I had hoped to get into a little bit more detail on the February 1st evening and be able to answer some of your questions a little bit more in detail.
Okay, so do you want me to send you questions?
Certainly,
you can ask?
if you would like to
Okay.
prepare some questions,
I'll
that
do
would
that.
help me be more prepared for what you want to know.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
And I would say with that, any questions that anybody has about the museum as well, and any work that we're doing, if there is information specifically that you're looking for,
and you want to forward that along before February 1st, then we can definitely include that as well. So that evening is going to be a very short kind of presentation from us, and then yeah, we'll talk a lot when we're doing the behind-the-scenes tour, and hopefully I'll be able to address any issues that you have museum-wise as well.
And our staff will be there as well, and our board, so it will be an opportunity for you not to just talk to the two of us, but also get a sense from these other folks who have been in the community a long time and kind of have a better idea of sort of that past history and the bigger picture of Tumbler Ridge. So, you betcha.
Okay, any more questions from council? Do you need a confirmation number by a certain date?
It would be nice to know numbers just a couple of days beforehand, but yeah.
Okay, so I would think from council side, whoever can make it to please email Ms. Torval, and then maybe Ms. Torval can just send us an email as a reminder, and then we can reply to that, and then we can forward the numbers. When it comes to staff, I'll allow Ms. Torval to select what staff she would like to participate.
Great.
That is up to her.
Yeah, and we very much like to encourage, this is really a welcome mat. You know, we do feel that it's important to have a good working relationship, and we want council, mayor, staff to feel comfortable coming to our organizations, because we will be working together over the next few years, and the easier we can make that, the better.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and you know, to reach out to council, I know you did it through our council liaison as well, Zena, and totally appreciate the offering for that. And I mean, I've been behind the tours, and people haven't been behind the scenes. It's a different thing than just walking through the gallery. So it's definitely worth attending. I appreciate the heads up and the long dates so that we have a bit of time to figure that out from our side. So is there any more questions from council, or any questions from council in regards to this? All right, well, thank you ladies very much for joining us, and look forward to seeing you on February 1st.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right
Can
on.
you guys hear me now?
Yeah, now we
Sorry.
can. You got it figured out. Okay, moving on to new business. The Pioneer Loop Playground Zone report dated January 16th, 2023 from the Director of Operations and Infrastructure regarding Pioneer Loop Playground Zone for information or discussion. Council's wishes. Councillor Dussault.
I think that's a great idea.
So for discussion?
Yes.
Want to move for discussion? Seconder?
Discussion, yeah.
I'll second that. Okay, all in favor?
Sorry.
Carried. Councilor Dussault.
I think putting a speed limit through there is a wonderful idea. I don't know why that hasn't been done a while ago, considering it is a little park area with a lot of kids, and a lot of trucks fly through there pretty fast. So I'm all in favor for it, so. yes.
Okay. Any more discussion? Councillor Norbury, sorry, I'll get you in a second. Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. Thank you, staff, for bringing this report forward. I know that I asked for this because Councillor Dussault is 100% correct. It is a high-speed area with a lot of children crossing the road. I know when this first entered in, we had expectations that children would be using the crosswalks, and it'd be relatively safe. But I think as time has showed us that we need to have added measures to protect people in that area. And on my side, I have people who don't have children, have no interest in that area, are mentioning like it's scary out there for those kids. You have people whizzing by, and so I like the recommendation that they have in the report, and I'd like to see us move forward with a speed reduction on that road. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you. I was wondering, do we have an incident? Did something happen at this point, or is it just time of year that people are nervous, or just during school hours, or what's the sort of more specifically? I'm just looking at the picture. Are we talking about the skate park as the target area?
Talking in regards to the pump track. The new pump track that was installed on Pioneer Loop, yeah. So it was just debated when it was first installed by the previous council in regards to signage, another crosswalk being built from the parking lot that's in front of the Legion across for people to be able to park and move.
Okay.
So I think what happened was we tried signage and some information first, and I think what happened there is, you hear it from the residents as well. I mean, Councilor Norbury just mentioned that, people seeing it, kids just jump, bolting out, and you got cars going 50 kilometers an hour through there, so. I guess my only question would be, have we reached out to, and I wouldn't know who it would be, but just in regards to our driving instructors in regards to getting licenses approved in Tumbler Ridge. I know that was a concern previously when we were 30 kilometers everywhere, Northgate, Southgate, when those speed limits were changed, and those were changed back in regards to making sure that we could have our young adults go through driver testing in Tumbler Ridge and not having to go to Dawson, because that was a problem before, is they would not come up here and do the driving test to approve a driver license for 16-year-olds. So that'd be my only question back to staff.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Your worship, at this time, as part of the collaboration between Mr. Bradley and myself, that was not taken into consideration. However, there still will be 50-kilometer-an-hour zones on both Northgate and Southgate, as well as Mackenzie Way and Monkman Way. So if that's still a consideration, they'll still have the availability to transition between the 30-kilometer and the 50. I don't foresee that being an issue, but as it's not our business to know that, I can't speak to if they will cease or not.
Okay, appreciate that. Okay, Councilor Hoffman.
It's a consideration. I don't know if this is even possible or feasible. What about a 30-kilometer zone just between North and Southgate? And then we would still have a continuation of a 50-kilometer zone around that?
So just for clarity, Councilor Hoffman, Pioneer Loop is in, I call it pink, it may be red, but I call it pink on my picture here. That's where they're looking at doing the 30-kilometer zone?
Yes, and I'm suggesting that instead of doing the whole loop, that perhaps doing it essentially from the orange pentagons to North and South Gate, and then that would have the highest risk area already covered by a 30-kilometer and allowing a continuous 50 around it. I don't know if that was considered or not, but as perhaps an alternative if that becomes an issue.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying now. The only concern, Councilor Hoffman, I like where you're saying. I'd have a concern going from Mackenzie up to the line where Southgate comes in, 50 kilometers, and trying to jam your brakes on to get down to 30. So as you turn, that's, so I see where staff's approaching as the whole Pioneer Loop at 30, and I think that's what, if council agrees with that and stuff like that, or doesn't agree, then we should debate that and then move forward. Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. I do remember the comments regarding what you're saying about the concern with ICBC, but I believe that was in response to that being 30. So the whole area was 30, then it was moved to 50. So I would like to, maybe we should reach out to ICBC to just get clarification on that issue, because I think that does change a few things. We definitely want to have driver training here. But I'm not too sure where their requirements are for how much 50 zones there are. In the reports, staff does talk about the justification why the whole road versus part of the road. That was a question that I had as well. But it seems like it makes more sense just to have that small thing, but then it had confusion. So I'm inclined to trust staff's recommendation there. But I think maybe we should reach out to ICBC and the road training to get clarification on whether what they need to allow that, and then we can go from there.
Did you want to put a motion on the floor, Councilor Norbury?
Absolutely, that staff reach out to ICBC or roads drivers training to understand the requirements needed for speed zones and driver testing.
Seconder. Councilor Clickash. Discussion? Okay, all in favor? Carried. Any more discussion in regards to the report that is on the floor? Ms. Torval?
Yes, Mr. Bradley would like to just add something else to this discussion.
Just so that we're all aware, that would be an extension from Pioneer Hill through to Pioneer Loop. Pioneer Hill is already 30 kilometers. So it would just be an extension of that.
Past the four-way. Yep.
Sorry, we couldn't hear that, Mayor Kukoka.
Yeah, I tried turning his mic on, but the mic's further away from him. So what he's talking about is it comes down off the Pioneer Hill there into, that's 30 to the four-way stop anyways, coming down the hill. So we just carry forward through the 30-kilometer zone. Okay, any more discussion in regards to that? Okay, I think we'll just look back from staff once they get some clarity back from whether it's ICB. I'm not sure where that department would be, but that would be great. Okay, geotechnical report for upper bench, Gwillim and Sukunka. A report dated January 16, 2023 from Director of Economic Development and Tourism regarding the the geotechnical report for upper bench, Gwillim, Sukunka for information or discussion. Council's wishes. Anybody want to discuss it? Councilor Norbury?
For discussion, Mayor Kukoka.
Seconder? Councilor Dussault? All in favor? Carried. Councilor Norbury?
Is staff prepared to give a little overview here on this topic, or should we just jump right into it? I think it might be a good idea for council to get an understanding of what's going on up there beyond the pages.
Sounds good. Ms. Dorville?
You are now.
Thank you. Just bring this in a little bit. Yes, thank you. So, at the last PPC meeting, with regards to the report on lot expansions, the topic came up of the water issues that were noted up on Gwillim Crescent and Sukunka. So there were issues up there years ago, and there were a number of reports that were undertaken, and a geotechnical report that was done at that time, and council had requested that information be brought forward to this meeting tonight to because of the lot expansions that were happening up there. So we have we quickly did a timeline with Ms. Finnegan, and this is being presented to council tonight to give an outline of what all was happening. Back in the day, first when Tumbler Ridge was built, and people were moving to Tumbler Ridge and buying houses, there weren't a lot of residents up on Gwillim Crescent, up in that area. That street was almost empty, but I know I have a friend that lives up there, and she was probably the only one up there for the longest time. And so then when the housing market, with the housing sales happened, people were buying houses all over the place, and of course, it quickly became populated up there. And then when homeowners were beginning to do some work around their place, landscaping and doing work in the backyards, there were water issues that were happening. And so there was a huge issue on Sukunka, which we pretty much all know about or possibly have heard about, and it is noted in this report as well tonight. So council requested that geotechnical study be conducted. It was conducted, and from what I gather, because this was a few years ago, there wasn't enough information in those reports to put a stop to all the work that was happening up there. However, a motion was brought forth in council for them to impose a moratorium on building and doing yard work and retaining walls, etc. And those motions were defeated. So here we are now today. We're doing lot expansions up there, and this seems to be cropping up again. So if council, like I said, the reports are here. If council would like to, are concerned and would like to possibly have another study done, that's up to council before we proceed further with more lot expansions.
Okay, thank you for that. Councilor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kukoka. Thank you for that explanation, staff. Thank you for the report. I appreciate all the information there. From my standpoint, it seems like whoever made a motion in 2016, I think was correct, and perhaps we should have a moratorium up there, because we find out a few years later what could happen by digging around in the hills back there, disturbing the underground aquifers. We have this issue that affects multiple residents in a cul-de-sac or a roadway situation. And that was a very unpleasant situation, I think, for all involved. The owner of the property, the residents in the area, there was issues with emergency services, and I'm not opposed to getting a new geotechnical report, but at this point in time, I think we should be having a blanket, like, don't disturb the ground up there. So a moratorium on building until we can, if we want to investigate further, to at least investigate further. But at this time, I think it's just bad news up there.
Thanks, Councilor Murray. Councilor Clickash?
Yes, I was involved up there quite often. And the thing is, these geotechnical reports haven't changed from 1983. The original ones had all this information on it that you shouldn't disturb the land or the grounds above their backyard where the tree growth was. And we did have an opportunity to bring somebody in to actually look at the whole thing as far as putting a French drain in. And that would have required removing all of the top growth up there, which was holding a lot of the water back from the spring freshet. There's two problems. There's a spring freshet and there's the groundwater. And because the groundwater is always going and it comes off the Tumbler, it's a big problem up there. And I think we have people here, right here in this room that have had problems with this situation. So I feel that they shouldn't be doing anything in there unless they get a geotechnical guy in to assess the whole thing on their own property and see what happens from there. Because I've had that situation already down in the Sukunka area. And the geotechnical said, don't dig in the banks here. And he said he stopped the whole idea of this person wanted to dig in their bank. And that was just near the place that the district had repaired a storm sewer problem right at the head of Sukunka Place. So I don't think we need any more reports. Just read them thoroughly. They're all here. The reports just keep costing money. Thank you.
Yep. Councilor Julik?
All the buttons. I am prepared to make the same motion that was made in September of 2016, that council issue a moratorium on the construction of all retaining walls, buildings, and the expansion of the property where there is a natural foliage cover, natural or existing drainage areas, or registered right-of-ways inside or near the rear property line of the following civic addresses, and then those that are in our package at 9.2.
I'm assuming we're gonna have to read those addresses, Councilor Julik.
Okay.
Sorry,
So
I mean,
we'll-
unless we can figure out another way of doing it, I just think not everybody has our agenda that could be watching live stream.
Okay. So that would be Gwillim Crescent, 112, 116, 120, 124, 128, 132, 136, 140, 144, 148, 152, 156, 160, 164, 168, 172, 176, 180, 184, 188, 192, 196, 200, 204, 208, 212, 216, 220, 224, 228, 232, 236, 240, 244, 248, 252, 256, and 260. Murray Drive, 228 and 232. Sukunka Place, 24, 28, 32, 36, 40, 44, 48, 52, 56. Wapiti Crescent, 144, 148, 152, 156, 160, 164, 176, 16, 20, 24, 28, 188, 192, 198, 200, 204, 208, 212, 216, 220 and 224. and that staff prepare an amendment to the building and plumbing bylaw 600, 2000, and so these numbers may have changed, but I'll read it as it's on here, that staff prepare an amendment to the building and plumbing bylaw 600, 2013 and zoning bylaw 585, 212, 2012 to codify this moratorium.
Seconder? Councillor Clickash? Discussion? Any discussion from council? I'll make one comment. My comment will be that we did have a concern up there, and I don't know what year it was, if it was last summer or the summer before, behind a person's a resident's house or slash property, and there was a drainage back there, and what was required was the district to go in there and clean that out so the water could actually flow. And once that was done, the water was no longer seeping into this gentleman's yard. So I will not support the motion on the floor unless we can get clarity, whether it's another study from a geotech or whatever. But when I'm going to vote and put this many residents' addresses up without having all that information per resident, and by doing the district going up there and opening that up so it would seep into the drainage tile or drain that was installed up there by the district, I can't support the motion on the floor. Okay, any more discussion? Oh, sorry. Councillor Hoffman.
I know what you're talking about. I've just down the street, and there's about 3 houses right now that have had active issues. I don't think a moratorium is a bad idea at this point, for the simple reason we don't know what can of worms we're opening. I don't have a problem repealing the moratorium if we do have a reason to, but I had a gentleman, new resident, moved in, and immediately he found that water was seeping into his basement, and it turned into a dig out the backyard, dig out the front yard, and try and mitigate this water problem. And the last thing I want is that every time somebody moves in and they just do something in their backyard, that we have this as a repeating issue. I don't have a problem coming back to it, but I don't see a problem telling people that you're going to open a can of worms if you try to do something in your backyard. So let's just not do it until we have a much better solution. I don't like the idea of clearing out all the forest back there because we have an underground spring that needs to be dealt with. And I would also be willing to listen to individual residents saying, I don't want the moratorium on me because I want to do X, Y, and Z, and here's the proof. But I think caution is the better part of valor here, given what's happening back there. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. I can appreciate the stance you're taking on it, but at this point in time, we know there's an issue, and until we're proven otherwise, I think it's prudent to enter into a moratorium, and then maybe we start looking at geotechnical right away, right? Like, let's put this in place. Let's stop any future potential issues, and then we can dig deeper a little more on targeted moratoriums, and we can change some of those addresses around to allow that. I'm not against doing that for our residents, but at this moment in time, I'm going to support the motion that's been made. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess just back to staff, not to put them on the spot, they may have to look for this information. What do we do with the residents that have already started? Grandfather did? So we have residents, I'm pretty sure I'm aware of some that have already started construction. So what happens there? And is this something that's in an open meeting?
Thank you. We would need some time to consider that. I will ask if Ms. Finnegan has something to contribute to this discussion, as she has been speaking with a surveyor from McElhaney in Fort St. John, and there has been discussions around these properties. So I'll just ask Ms. Finnegan if she could, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm not sure that I can add anything more specific other than what's in the reports and what we've discussed. We have 2 pending lot expansions up on Gwillim, 172 and 240, that were previously approved to move forward. To my knowledge, I know for sure that the surveyor has not come in yet to their property, and I have given notice to both of the residents that this is under discussion again. So there will be some discussion on those 2 staff reports that went through, and to communicate more fully with the residents what the issues might be. The surveyor has mentioned some of these issues. I don't know how many of the residents up there it would affect. It may be and maybe a worthwhile looking at all of the numbers, seeing if all of those numbers are affected and picking out the ones that are at most risk. But that would be up to council, whether it's a complete moratorium or in sections. Again, we'd probably have to get some more information. I don't have the answers for that at the moment, sorry.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Orville. I've got Councillor, oh, no, I thought nobody's hand was up. Councillor Julik and then Councillor Clickash. Councillor Julik?
I'm good to let Ken go ahead because I'm sure he's probably got information that will make my change.
Councillor Clickash?
The best way of handling this is to have the homeowner hire the geotech, and the geotech decide whether he can put what he wants in his backyard. If we go on a blanket type of thing, it's going to be really expensive. And there was a proposal to put a French drain the whole length that was going to cost like $1.3 million, $1.5 million, but like that was going to wipe out all the vegetation, which is holding back that water. But the groundwater is different from the freshet, so every place is going to be an individual problem, and it happens even on Canuso, and Wapiti Crescent, all over the place in that area, and that's why a geotech has to be. If somebody's new is going to build in that area, they require a geotech to look at their property and make sure the drainage is proper for their building that they're putting in there. Because we've opened up some pretty bad situations in the past. So I think that's the way I'd like to have a look at it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Julik? Can't hear you, Councillor Julik.
I pushed the wrong buttons. So I have to, I was just going to say that I agree that we just leave it the way it is. I feel like back in 2016, this report was done. So I don't know why we would want to change the addresses. I can't imagine that any of the water runoff, anything like that has changed. So, and I agree with Councillor Clickash that if some individuals want to make those changes, then they can make those changes. But if this stuff is in our bylaws, to me, coming in, you know this stuff. So if I'm coming in and I want to do that, I will tell you that when I moved in 2011, I was told by a resident, do not buy on that in Gwillim. Back in 2011, don't buy there because there's water problems. So I agree with Councillor Clickash and will support the motion I put forward.
Thank you. Okay, any more discussion? Okay, call the question. All in favor? Oh, sorry, hang on. Councillor Dusso.
I just have one thing to add in. When we did buy up on Gwillim, we were told we could expand our lot. And now to find this out is really, so can the realtors also in this town be made aware of this problem? Because they are telling people, oh yeah, go ahead, expand your lot, it's okay.
Well, I'll be honest, I think when people, so landowner proponents can come forward to council on a one-off basis for a lot expansion. Okay. We're doing that today. Can't remember the number, and I apologize to staff to not know this number, how many have been approved already, not just up on Gwillim, but within the community. So you can, with the motion put forward, you just wouldn't be able to, my understanding would be you'd have to get a geotechnical report if you were to build a garage or something like that is my understanding. Does that answer your question, or can I get more clarity for you?
Yeah, I guess that kind of answers my question. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Okay. Councillor Hoffman.
Just to be clear as well, are we including the exceptions to moratorium with the geotechnical survey? Is that part of the motion?
Not the motion that's on the floor at this time.
Okay.
I can have the motion read back without the addresses, just so we're clear, and I have no problem with that. But
please.
Yeah. Staff, please.
Or is it just what's written on the page?
It is what was written on the page minus the addresses.
Okay.
Like she did, Councillor Julick did read out all the addresses.
Yes.
So it's exactly what's in front of us on that page,
Verbatim.
Verbatim.
correct?
Yes, correct.
And the only thing is I would agree with Councillor Clickash that we should have an exception for a individually analyzed yard to continue with it, whether it be lot expansion or construction or whatever. I would like to see for the individuals to have that option if they want to do that. But if we adopt this motion and then add another motion, I think that would work fine for this, if that's.
Yep.
Okay, so let's just voting on this motion for now.
Okay. So all in favor of the motion on the floor? Oh. Did you have a question, Councillor Julick?
Can I just not make an amendment?
We'll just do this and then a second motion can come forward.
Okay, okay.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, did you feel comfortable making that motion, Councillor Hoffman?
Yes, I'd also like to make a motion.
Sorry, there you go.
Yeah, no worries. I would like to make a motion that if an individual that owns any one of the listed properties would like an exception, that they provide a geotechnical report for the exception that they would like.
Okay. Seconder, Councillor Clickash. Councillor Hoffman, and I know you're not going to be able to read it back word for word, but if we can just read it back to staff, she did not capture it all.
Oh, okay. A motion to allow for individual property owners affected by the previous motion to request an exception based on a geotechnical report.
Okay, and I'll just make sure staff has captured that.
Yeah, that if an individual that owns any properties that were just listed in the above mentioned motion, to request an exception for geotechnical report.
To request an exception for, based on a geotechnical report, which they will provide.
Okay, seconder, go with Councillor Clickash and then Councillor Noberry.
Just to understand your motion, you mean that they will be supplying the geotechnical report for their project?
Big yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Noberry.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. I did have a question regarding the cost of geotechnical reports. I see in the report listed they cost from $28,000 to $144,000. My concern is expecting a resident to pay for that themselves. Is the cost lower? Could that be included in the surveyor's report? Because I'm more inclined for us to get a fresh look for them and then narrow down our moratorium just to allow this, because I believe that the lot expansion is something people want. So I'd just like to have an option for people that are interested in building back there to try and be a little more surgical in our moratorium.
Ms. Torval?
Need more time to, we would need to bring this back.
Okay,
Of all the, it's all good suggestions and valid suggestions. And for us to make decisions or provide advice off the fly tonight, I would request respectfully that this be brought back.
okay, I appreciate staff being straightforward in regards to that when a motion gets put on the floor. I think we can debate it. I know Councillor Clickash next, and then we could always defer the motion. And that gives staff, and what we could do is defer this motion, put another motion on the floor to give it back to staff to bring back a report on how that would work. We could do that too. Councillor Clickash.
My experience is on an individual lot, it only costs around $1,100 to $1,200 for a geotech to come out and have a look at it. And they will supply a one-page report on that particular lot and pertaining to the project that's at hand. Because, you know, a lot of people may just want to do a small thing in their backyard and they don't need a full geotechnical report for that.
Councillor Hoffman.
I would be more than happy to defer this and have staff have a chance to tighten up the language a little bit. I think the message is clear, but I don't think under pressure is necessary tonight. I think the moratorium would be sufficient for the time being, and then in the next few sessions, we can allow for exceptions.
Yeah, and the only reason, Councillor Hoffman, I was suggesting a deferral on the motion was to put another motion on the floor to have staff bring back a report. Just because one councillor's already asked what the costs are. I know Councillor Click asked you, or you have the background, but who knows if that pricing's changed a bit. And I think that's what Councillor Noberry is looking for. If the report's saying it's in this range, is that what every resident's looking forward to if they were to try and build a garage or do something small like you just suggested in the backyard? So I think, I'm not sure if council's wishes, but it seems like staff is unprepared to answer costs and stuff, and I actually don't blame them, and I appreciate them being forward with that. Council, just, what's your wishes? Councillor Noberry.
Thank you, Mayor Kakaka. I'd like to make a motion to defer.
Okay, seconder. Councillor Hoffman, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councillor Noberry, prepared to put a motion on the floor for a report? Councillor Noberry?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Krakalka. I'd like to make a motion for staff to bring back a report regarding geotechnical reports on the aforementioned motion. It's a fancy word there. On geotechnical reports.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Hoffman. Discussion. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. I apologize to the people on Zoom. Sometimes I have a problem looking up and seeing your guys' hands, so if I don't catch you, just say something, please. Okay, moving on to the Tumbler Ridge Community Forest Corporation Board. Report dated January 16th, 2023 from the interim CAO, Director of Corporate Service regarding Tumbler Ridge Community Forest Corporation Board approval and reappointments. Recommendation, please. Councillor Dussault.
Council appoints the following community volunteers to the Tumbler Ridge Community Forest Board of Directors for 2023. Al Kangas, Chair, 3-year term. Rob McKay, Co-Chair, 3-year term. Marcia Dufresne, 2-year term. Hugh Kingwell, 2-year term. Bernie Lehman, 2-year term. And Chris Norberry, Mayor Designate.
Seconder, please. Councillor Hoffman. Any discussion? Councillor Noberry?
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. I just wanted to bring up something that the community forest brought up in the last meeting we had. I'm not sure if it was a shareholders meeting, but we are looking at the legalities to appointing board members for multi-year terms. I believe that we are currently still required from the district side to appoint them. And we're going to look into how we can potentially allow for those multi-year appointments. I believe it may be in the Articles of Incorporation. So we're going to get back to council on that sort of thing. But yeah, I'm in support of the motion as it stands. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilor Murray. Just a heads up, if you guys are having a legal look at that, we've already looked at it from this side in previous years, and it states right in the corporation that it's a yearly appointment. Yes, you guys can do 2 years and 3 years for members, but we have to approve them every year by council, is what's in the corporation papers. So we just need to find out if council's wishes are and how to change that. So, Councillor Dussault. Did you have anything? No. Sorry, I had you lit up. My apologies. Okay, any more discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion on the floor? Opposed? Carried. 9.4, Council of Forest Industry Conference, Kofi. Report dated January 16th, 2023 from the Executive Assistant regarding Council of Forest Industries authorizing travel expenses. A recommendation, please. Councillor Dussault.
That council authorizes travel expenses for Mayor Krakauka and Councillor Norberry to attend the COFI 2023 Annual Convention.
Seconder. Councillor Clickash. Discussion. Okay, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Schedule of meetings. Any concerns from council? Okay, anything from staff?
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to bring council's attention to tentative workshop scheduled with our finance consultant for February the 6th. This workshop would take place before a council meeting, and it wouldn't be a council meeting, it would be a workshop. She is coming to town, as far as I know. She's just working out her details, getting flight approvals and everything else, or confirmations rather, for that week of February 5th through to the 11th. And we thought it might be a good idea for her to come in and put up a little workshop for council. Also, on the 13th of February, we have another workshop tentatively booked with WSP, and they are working on our zoning bylaw. So they would like to come in prior, again, to a council meeting as they did previously for the OCP, about 3:30 till 5 p.m., and talk about the what we heard report from the zoning bylaw engagement sessions that were held, and then to possibly go through the key recommendations with council. So I just want to make you aware of that, and we'll have further details as the time gets closer.
Okay, so are we talking about 3:30 for February 6th as well?
Yes, we could. Although I haven't confirmed with Natalie, but
Yeah, nothing confirmed.
at the time, but
What's council's thoughts on that? So that's February 6th and February 13th, possible of 2 different workshops on each of those nights, starting at 3:30 till 5. And then the meeting starts at 5. Any concern from council? Okay. Everything else is good from council in regards to the schedule of meetings? Yep, go ahead, Councillor Hoffman.
What's the timeline on the budget? When is that supposed to be done by? Because I only see 2 meetings here.
Yeah, we have to have it approved by May 15th.
Okay.
So I do believe we'll see more meetings having to be added for budget. I think that's the idea. I think that's the idea of meeting with the contractor that is going to be working with staff in regards to our budget on the February 6th.
No, that's fine. I just didn't know when the timeline was, and if we were only having 2 and it's a month after that, I wasn't going to be comfortable. If we got a couple of months, that's fine.
Okay. Sorry, what's wrong?
He was just inquiring about a meeting.
There's another meeting in I don't remember the exact date, whether it was January or February.
Do you know what it was about, Councillor Clickash?
No, I don't. I can't remember. I'll have to read through all those stuff and then find out.
So there is some meetings that the 3 councillors via Zoom are down at a resource meeting right now in Prince George. There's another meeting coming up in Prince George that we just approved funding for Councillor Norbury and myself to attend, but that's not till April.
No, these are,
It would be February 1st for the museum. Is that the one you're thinking about?
no. I'll find out.
If you have any questions, you can reach out to Mr. Orville and myself. And I think we can also just, in our minds, and I think Mr. Orville sent it out, but February 1st in regards to the museum and the Global Geopark invite. Okay. Notice of motions. Councillor Julik brought forward, or is there any more notice of motions? Sorry, my apologies. I just had to go right to it. 10.1 Recreation Pass Benefit Policy. Councillor Julik brought forward the following notice of motion in the January 3rd, 2023 meeting.
Want me to go ahead?
Yes, please.
That mayor and council are removed from the recreation pass benefit policy admin 52.
Okay, seconder. Councillor Dussault. Discussion. So I'm going to put it out there that I'd like to put a deferral on this, and the reason I asked to put forward a deferral is when the policy will be coming back from staff, we can do the removal if that's the will of council, but also the additions possibly of other organizations that council has reached out to. I know Councilor Nobury has reached out to YMCA in regards to the ECEs to make sure it doesn't affect their funding if they were to be added. So that is just a thought. Council. Councilor Julik.
My only thought on that is the current passes expire on January 31st. And I guess for me, I'm okay to have them come off this time because I've given it some thought. But if we just take it off, if we decide when we have that come back from staff, we could add them back in. But otherwise they go out and we're just looking at it again maybe. Anyways, that's my reasoning.
Okay, I guess my thought is they don't go out automatically to any councillor. You actually have to put in for it and you pay taxes on it. So again, if I have no problem if council wants to keep it on the floor and debate it. The only thing is, again, we're adding more staff time because they have to rewrite the policy. And then if we decide to add them again, they have to do it again. That would be my only concern. Ms. Torval and then Councilor Nobury.
Thank you, Council. Relative to the January 31st deadline that Councillor Julik has noted, Council can waive that policy to extend that deadline if they wish.
True enough. Councilor Nobury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. I'd be in favor to defer the motion. I think it's better that we have this discussion at the policy time, but as it stands, I am also willing to debate the motion as it stands, but I would support deferral.
Okay, Councilor Julik.
I guess what it comes down to for me is that I just, I'm not going to change my mind. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to change my mind. I don't see anywhere where it's listed in Sophie. So I don't think it's necessary for us to receive that as mayor and council. I think that if we want to take the time, one of the reasonings given to me when we discussed it previous was that we get a chance to check out the facilities. And I think that as mayor and council, we need to check out what that cost is to our residents.
Okay.
And have it hit our pocketbook the same way.
Thank you, Councilor Julik. Okay, I am going to put a motion to defer. It doesn't seem like there might be one to chat, so I'm going to put a motion on the floor to defer. Seconder, Councilor Hoffman. Discussion in regards to the deferral. Okay, call the question in regards to the deferral. All in favor? Opposed? Got those two. Carried. Recording of council meetings. Councilor Julik brought forward the following notice of motion at the January 3rd, 2023 meeting. Councilor Julik?
That the District of Tumbler Ridge continue to take council meetings, to tape council meetings, yet have them under the district's continuous care and control. I can speak to that if I get a seconder.
A seconder? Councilor Hoffman. Discussion. So I think before I open it up and try and get clarity, I'd like to hear from staff. This might answer a few of our questions for debating, if that's okay, Councilor Julik, just on how they handle our live stream and backups. Ms. Torval.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I know there is some care and control that does go on, it does happen. And since Mr. Curry has been our IT person through this whole process, and he's got most of the ins and outs of all this, I will pass the floor over to him so that he can probably give you some information.
Your Worship, Council. So the way that we're live streaming has changed, obviously, with the AV upgrades that we've now had in council chambers. With that, we are recording them, and we do have a sole backup for the recordings, so they're not only just held on the YouTube servers. The district has historically used YouTube as our platform and streaming provider because of the technology of what we had at the time. It integrated well with our service, but that does not mean that it has to be the be-all end-all for us moving forward. There is lots of options for streaming services out there. So we can certainly do that. There is a cost associated to those.
Yeah, can you just, they can't hear you.
They can't hear me.
No. Oh, sorry, I thought I seen Sorry, my apologies. I thought I seen Councilor Nobry pointing to his ears. Okay, sorry, Chief Curry. That's what I'd seen him doing this. Maybe he was readjusting it.
Okay, everybody can hear me? Excellent. I was on a roll there.
Sorry.
So there's a cost associated with those things. We certainly can, at council's direction, look at other opportunities and avenues for streaming if that is the wish, or to see streaming as per council's direction. We do have a backup copy that is not held on the YouTube servers, so that we do have that internal resiliency and redundancy.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Julik.
To move all the buttons around. So I guess my concern, or not my concern, or my thought was that if we taped them and then just streamed them off of our webpage, but I don't know the technical pieces of that. That's why when you say there's a cost to it, I'm curious of what the cost would be. I'm not thinking that we need to stream it. The reason that I would recommend possibly going away from live streaming is in case there is a privacy issue that happens, then we have the safety of that. It can be corrected and then go out. I've enjoyed watching them. I often come back to watch them. I don't watch them live streaming. So that was my thought. But so I was willing actually to recommend a staff report if that's what was needed.
Okay, thank you. So I got myself, Councilor Norbury, then Councilor Noxana. So my only comment there would be, COVID has shown us lots, and one of the things is, by the charter, we actually have to make our meetings available. So if we get into another pandemic situation or whatever, and we end up with a lockdown, is we would have to live stream our videos, no matter what. That is set by the government. So that's my concern there. And not everybody wants to come out and sit in the gallery. A lot of people watch the live stream at home. Yeah, we haven't had a whole bunch of question and answer period. I don't think it's well known out there that we can actually email our CAO at dtr.ca to ask any question about tonight's agendas. I don't think we've done a good job on that from council side to make sure that's advertised. So I don't think that's why we don't see a whole bunch of questions during council or question and answer period, which hopefully we can change. But that's my concern in regards to live stream. I think residents have the right to be able to see our meetings as they happen in case they do have questions. Councillor Nobury.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. I'm going to agree with you again. I believe in transparency to its fullest, and I believe that we should be making all efforts to be transparent, and I believe that live streaming our meetings does that. There are pitfalls. I mean, there are occasional slip-ups. There are this and that, but we do have the option to, if there is major issues, we do have control in our YouTube, on our website, to potentially remove that or edit that out. If it comes down to an issue, I think that could potentially be avenue in case of seriousness. But, you know, when there's slip-ups of different matters, I think the public's relatively understanding in that. Like it's easy for us to say something by accident. We just have to move on. You know, with the streaming options, Chief Curry was talking about other options. YouTube is the end-all be-all for a reason. It is very expensive to offer services that YouTube offers, and us finding something else, I think, reduces our accessibility to people. If we go on some random site that's hard to find, it's really easy to go to youtube.com, District of Tumbler Ridge. So I would like to see us continue what we're doing, and if there's concerns about potential misuse of our live streaming or our video, then we create a policy on potentially removing that abuse by whomever moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Noxana and then Councillor Julik.
Thank you. I know part of the concern was misuse of our video because it's happened in neighboring communities, and I don't think that having it not on YouTube on something else is going to erase that. I think in today's day and age, video clips can be copied from any part of the internet, and the public does have the right to see a live stream if they wish.
Thank you, Councillor Julik, and then Councillor Hoffman.
So I just wanted to speak to the public being allowed to see the live stream. And I agree with you that that's a consideration if we had to go into lockdown again. What can happen though is that they can actually participate via Zoom link. So if they wanted to participate, in fact, it would make it easier because if they wanted to participate, they could participate via a Zoom link rather than having to come in to the town council, which maybe couldn't happen through a lockdown. And then, so if somebody wants to be part of, you reach out for the Zoom link and you add via Zoom link, and then they're muted, but they get to be part of, but can still be part of our meeting the whole time. And then at the end, still be allowed to ask the questions like we would ask them now. So in fact, I think it would be more interactive, because then they could actually interact as though they were sitting in the gallery rather than having to watch the Zoom link, like to watch the live stream and then come back. So I think that way, anyways.
Thank you. I got Councillor Hoffman, then Councillor Noxana.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not hearing anything that upsets me or that I can really argue against, even though they're on counter sides. I would like to suggest that we do send it back to staff with here's YouTube, what we have now, here's perhaps a stream through our website or Zoom or whatever. Okay, what am I choosing between? What's the cost? What's the perceived benefits? I just don't know. So I'd like a report on this, please.
Councillor Noxana, then Mayor Kirkcalka.
I'm just going to have to say, based on tonight's experience, Zoom is that hard. But also, there's nothing saying we can't do Zoom in addition. If somebody wanted to participate, then great, a Zoom link. But just to sit at home, or I've been in other communities before I was a councillor and just really had something I was passionate about and I knew it was on the agenda, I could log in. There's no getting a link ahead of time or anything. And then I can hear the debate in real time and understand what's happening and why it's happening.
Perfect, thank you. Just for myself, the only thing I'll mention, and I'm not against report, but if we're happy with where we're at, when we ask for reports, it actually takes staff time. So when we do that, we're taking staff away from other direction we've given them. So all I say is if majority wants a staff report, put the motion on the floor, debate it, and move forward. And the only reason I say that is because the more reports we give to staff, the more workload we're putting on them. So if people are happy around the table the way the district is today, live streaming, and the way our backup is, Chief Curry spoke to, then we can move forward. So, Councillor Nobury.
Thank you, Mayor Kirkcalka. So my only comment at this moment in time, I'll comment on the Zoom a little bit later when we get to that point. My question is, if we pass this motion, in regard to this current motion, if we pass this current motion, what change would that enact, and would it enact any change? Because at this moment in time, the motion to me reads like we're not going to make any change because the recordings are under our care and maintenance. If Councillor Julik is looking for something different, like a change of the process, I'd like a little more clarity or a rework of a motion to allow that debate, because it's not very clear on my side. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Nobury. That's how I read it right now, just because of the clarity from staff and the debate around council. To me, it doesn't change nothing, but Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to speak to your point, I keep that in mind. I don't want to waste staff time, and so let me be more specific about my concern. I am more concerned about information security in general, that if we use things like YouTube or any other Google or any other large-scale corporate-centered thing, I don't know where our information goes. So what I really am after is, does it make sense to do it through our own website, through our own setup and streaming, so that we maintain control of our information? And that's a little more general than just this. I would like to get away, as just personally and for this community, from the sort of free general stuff out there, because I know that they're taking data and that they are using it for their own purposes. Not suggesting nefarious, but just having control of our data. So that's really coming up for this particular staff report. And just so you guys know, I am always conscious of your time and efforts, and I do appreciate them. So I also wouldn't mind hearing when you don't think it's necessary, but always through Mayor. Thank you, sir.
And apologies to you, Councillor Hoffman, if you thought I was directing it to you. I wasn't, just directing it in general, just when we asked for reports. So I just want to make sure you didn't think I was directing that just because you made the comment. I wasn't doing that. Just overall, like I know previously how many reports I asked for, and I can't remember when we asked approximate time per report. I think it's 10 hours, 10 staff hours, approximately. So where would we like to go? The motion on the floor states that that Councillor Julik, sorry, The just Tumbler Ridge continue taking council, tape, I'm thinking it says, supposed to say tape council meetings, yet have them under the district's continuous care and control, which we do today. So, I don't see that, this motion changing, so I think we'll call the motion on the floor, and if there's different direction that Councillor Julich is looking for, we can take a different motion at the same time. We won't look for a notice of motion, we'll just take a different motion. So all in favor with the motion on the floor? Opposed? Carried. So Councillor Julich, I apologize, and just sometimes our notice of motion, sometimes we don't get out what we're wanting to say at the previous meeting. So are you looking for something different?
I am, like, or maybe like Councillor Hoffman has said, is to get some information. The way I understand it now, and maybe it's just my lack of knowledge around the internet, but that if it's out on YouTube, it's not under our continuous care and control. That YouTube then has access to that and can do whatever they want with it. Now, maybe I'm incorrect in that. And so I would rather see us just live stream it right through our website. Like, unless that's not doable, then we could look at a different option.
Ms. Torval.
Thank you, Mayor. I will ask Chief Curry to provide comment.
Thank you.
Your worship and council, at this point, I'm not prepared to speak towards what our web host can actually do or not do on our web platform. I know we have obviously a new website, but I just don't know the limitations of that. I don't know if Ms. Finnegan would, yeah. I think we'd have to take that back and talk to the folks that host our website and then get their input on it, if that's even doable through our website.
Okay, thank you, staff. Ms. Torval, but we do control our backups. Whether it's YouTube or not, we have control of that. So I guess the other question that Councillor Julich was talking about is, can YouTube do whatever they want with it because we fed it onto their link? That was her other comment, I believe, and if I'm saying it wrong, Councillor Julich, please step in. But she was also wondering, with it being screened through YouTube, that they can do whatever they want with that screening, even though we've backed it up on our end. Do we have it? Would we be able to answer that?
So I'll begin the conversation, and then Chief Curry can interject. My understanding in speaking with our ESW, who does our IT, we have our own YouTube channel. I don't know what that involves with regards to security and other users getting in on it or taking our information. And then I will pass it over to Chief Curry if he's got further to add to that.
Thank you, Ms. Torval, Mayor and Council. So I believe what Councillor Julich is talking about is who actually owns the information once it gets to YouTube. Who can do what with it, who can disseminate that information, use it for whatever reasons. It's similar to other social media platforms as to when you put something on there, who owns the rights to that. I can't comment specifically to that. I know that we do have various levels of security and an agreement with YouTube to host through our channel. We have the way that we have our channel set up. I just can't speak to the particulars, as I was not the one who actually set up. I don't think anybody in this room was the one who actually set that system up when we first started live streaming.
So I'm assuming it was probably IT that set it up. So Councillor Julich, I guess, again, this is up to council's direction where we'd want to go with staff. Councillor Julich?
I would like to make a motion that we receive information as to the security of our, I don't even know how to phrase it.
Okay, just give me 1 second. Councillor, Ms. Torval.
Thank you, Mayor. My pass line. Ms. Finnegan would like to contribute to the discussion. She's got information regarding something. YouTube.
Thank you. Just to add on to what Mr. Curry was talking about, Council do retain ownership rights in our content. YouTube does are granted certain rights, and we would have to go through the service agreement as Dustin suggested in the setup. So I think it would probably be a good point to go back and find out more information. But we don't give up completely all of our rights when we put it up there.
Okay, thank you for that. So I think, Councillor Julich, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but more or less we're just looking for the staff to reach back out and read the agreement and bring back any answers that would answer the questions that were asked tonight. I don't know if we need a motion. I mean, I'm big on the motion things, and so we're debating that, and that way if council doesn't agree to send staff to do that, Mr. Earl, I won't just put you on the spot because I'm not a big fan of the knotheads and stuff like that, but I think, like, do you want a motion in regard or recommendation from staff council? Or would staff be willing, just because the way the notice of motion was drawn up by Councillor Julich or read at our last meeting, I think a little bit, sometimes it's our first go at it too, so sometimes we're not sure how to do it. Can we just maybe leave that on as a notice of motion and staff has a bit of clarity now? Would that be fine, council? Would that be fine by council? Okay, I've got enough nods. We'll just leave that on as a notice of motion for, I'm not saying the next meeting, but the meeting that staff is comfortable bringing that information back. Does that work, Councillor Julich?
Oh, for sure. That works perfect.
Okay, perfect. Moving on to 10.3, Councillor Julich brought forward the following notice of motion at the January 3rd, 2023 meeting, land acknowledgement.
That staff gather information around how our neighboring communities do land acknowledgement so that our meetings will also open with a land acknowledgement and further investigate the best way to adopt and implement UNDRIP number 43, 2007 United Nations Declaration on Rights of Indigenous People.
Thank you for that. Before I ask for a second, I'd like to just to have a little light discussion about that. Council can weigh in also. But I think when we send this back to staff to gather the information, to me, we're also looking to see if there's policies out there, because to me, when we talk about this, it's not going to be just a policy for our meetings. To me, it's a policy for our emails as councillors. But then again, it returns to being a policy for staff in regards to what we want to have their emails as well. Does council agree with that? If council doesn't agree with those comments, like I don't want staff just reaching out just to see how they do it. I want to see if other communities have policies that then staff can bring those ideas back. And then we're not sending it back saying, well, let's look at doing policy. We can have it all at once. Councillor Hoffman.
I think you bring up a good point, and it's deeper than I was actually thinking about this myself. I mean, I've been hearing this on various stages and various levels for a long time now, and I'm not suggesting that this was brought it this way. If we're going to do this, I'd like to do it right. I don't want it to feel tacked on and that it's just a lip service to communities that happen to have lived in this area at some point in time. So I'm not sure what I'm proposing, but whatever we do, I would like consultation with any band that we would be considering in this, on staff input on what are we signing Tumbler Ridge up for when we do it this way, and who we're doing this for, and really why we're doing it. Because if we're just going to pay lip service, I'll tell you right now, my answer is going to be no. Like, I don't like the disingenuity I've seen this used for the last 20 years. So, or plus actually. But I like what you brought up, Mayor. I really do appreciate that. So I guess what I'm proposing is, if we're going to do this, let's do this right, and let's make sure everybody that has any impact, including our residents, including any bands we're thinking of acknowledging in this way, and the people that are going to be the face of this as well. So I don't know what I have to say to this right now, but maybe we should step back and take a bigger picture of this than just talk about this motion tonight. So thank you. That's what I had to say on that.
Okay, I got Councillor Julich and then Councillor Norbury.
Yes, and I appreciate Mayor Krakauka bringing that forward, and Councillor Hoffman's concerns as well. Mostly this motion for me was about opening the door so that we have these conversations. And Mayor Krakauka had talked about the PRD previously, and I guess that must have been in our weekend meetings, but like, I'm okay to do whatever we need to do for this. I just don't want it to be something that doesn't get acknowledged. I think that we have to make sure that we're respectful and reach out to our neighbors, Soto and West Moberly. We also have BC First Nations, BC's Métis Nation. We have a very strong Métis Nation in our community, and we also have 2 Inuit. And while I understand that's not a land acknowledgement, it's about, to me, in the reconciliation, whether it be through UNDRIP or the Truth and Reconciliation with in Canada, those are steps that we want to take on and show some respect. And so for me, this is about showing respect and acknowledging that we're gathering on different land.
Okay, Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Krakauka, and thank you to our previous councillors for the comments. I fully support all movement towards being a little more acknowledge. I got my words mixed up there, but I like where we're going with this. But I would like to sort of split it up a little bit. I'm in complete support of getting together information about land acknowledgements. I would first like to get information on what UNDRIP is before we ask staff to bring it back to look for ways to implement it, because I think with anything we should have a little more information on what we're doing before we say yes to it. And similarly with Mayor Kakalka's comment, maybe we're looking at a policy development on how we manage our land acknowledgements in all of our communications. So I think we have like 3 separate things. I think we should be dealing in 3 separate ways. I support all of them, but it seems like my concern is if we lump them all in together, we're waiting for each piece of the puzzle before we can discuss it, right? Like I'd like to see them separate. So like land acknowledgement, we can sign that off real quick and easy. We can implement that today. We can get information about UNDRIP at a later date, or even at the same time, whatever. Then we can look at that, make that decision, and go forward. Same with Mayor Kakalka's suggestion on the update to our communications policy. I think that's something that we need to do a little more research on, and we need to implement. But I would hate for us to put too much in the basket all at once when we can, be effective in 3 different ways, and we can sort of implement these at a faster rate. So that's my only concern.
Thanks, Councillor. So my comments were, if we're gathering information from our neighboring communities, we should check and see if they have policies, right? Because that could be that's what I'm talking about. If we just find out, you guys do the land acknowledgement. Oh, how do you word it? Okay, thank you. But if they have policies, it's something that we can be looking at as a whole. Not saying about implementing it at the same time, but I'm saying if we're going to gather information, or this motion has direction of staff to start reaching out to our neighboring communities. And to me, if we're going to reach out to our neighboring communities and they do land acknowledgements, yeah, we do. Then a couple of weeks later, we say, oh, we want to find out about doing a policy. We should reach out to our communities around our area, see if they have a policy about this. Now we're having staff reach back out to that staff. So to me, if we could just ask those same questions, all I was looking for is adding to see if they have policies about it. That's not building our own policy at the same time, but just asking if they have one. Councillor Julik.
And I would agree, again, opening the door was my main intent here. I don't think that we can easily do a land acknowledgement, though. I think that requires us to reach out to our neighbors and make sure that we're doing it in a manner that they find respectful and okay. I'm not First Nation, I'm not Indigenous, so I feel like that would be one of the first steps. I don't think that we could just do it. I think that we need to be mindful while we do it. That's just in my experiences. And I agree with Mayor Kakalka, because as I read this motion, I'm realizing I need to take more time the next time. Mostly it's about, like, I would like to see us all have a bit better understanding of what UNDRIP is, which is the United Nations Declaration, now I'm missing the second word, for the rights of Indigenous peoples. And then there's the Truth and Reconciliation Act that came out in 2015 with, I'm going to say 94 recommendations. So I just feel like it's our responsibility, particularly as we have close neighbors that are bands, Indigenous bands, and then with the caribou stuff coming up, like that's a huge connection that we make with our First Nations neighbors.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with doing anything. Like, I know the motion's on the floor, we haven't got a seconder, and maybe it's a bigger topic that we have at a PPC meeting.
Yeah, I don't think we have to have bigger. I would just ask, like, again, that's why I didn't ask for a second, or just have a little bit of discussion in regards to it. Sometimes it's, I'm not a big fan of debating the motion before we have a seconder, but just maybe adding that piece so we're not doing amendments. So if council's okay with that, we just ask the staff gather information around how our neighboring communities do land acknowledgements, and if they have policies in regards to land acknowledgements. And then the rest of the motion as it's written. Is council okay with that? Is Council Julik okay with that? This is your notice of motion. Okay, take a seconder. Councillor Dussault. Okay, now we can debate the motion. And I guess just checking with staff that they got the change. Ms. Torval? Just checking to make sure we got the change of the motion, adding about policy. Yeah, if the communities have policies as well. We got that? Okay. No problem. So neighboring communities do land acknowledgements, and if so, if they have a policy. And I believe we're asking like for the Peace Regional area would be our neighboring communities. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Councillor Julik?
I just wanted to clarify too, the reason that I ask about neighboring communities is just to give us a starting point.
You bet.
That was all.
Nope, and I appreciate that. Good on you. Okay, any more discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion on the floor? Opposed? Carried. Councillor's business. Any council got councillor business? Councillor Nobury. Councillor Nobury?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Kukoc. Thank you, Mayor Kukoc. I had to hit the mute button there. I do have a couple of pieces of business. I had a meeting with the South Peace Health Services Society. We're humming right along. We're looking at we're looking at having an open house for the opening of the Baltree's house in March. I'll have to get back to everybody about the specific time, but we're nearing completion. We're really hoping to open the door soon, so we'll send out an invite when I get clarification and confirmation. And the other thing that I had a little bit of a chat with SD 59 in regards to where they're at with childcare. So it looks like they're moving along with the new building, like Councillor Noxana was mentioning earlier. Looks like I don't want to get too much into it, make promises until we get the confirmation about the grant, but they are looking to build a building and they are applying to the New Spaces grant. So hopefully we'll have some good news about that. Yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
Do you have the amount of seats they applied for, Councillor Nobury?
Yeah, so I know that they're going for 12 infant and toddler, and I believe up to 25 for the ages 3 to 5. I did ask for information on whether they would still need our space at the community center, and that was a YMCA question. So we'll get into that a little later on what their space needs will be. So, yeah.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you very much. Any other councillors' business? All right, I didn't have a whole bunch of meetings, but I met with Conuma Cole. Myself, Ms. Torval, met with Lisa Risvold and Brian Sullivan, the CEO of Conuma Cole. And I know there's been questions. I know I kind of gave an update a little bit there during strategic planning. So they are hoping to take, they fear there's a 5 to 6 week delay in just in regarding to having the deal signed totally off. But they are hoping to have manpower and equipment onto Tech's site by October or November of 2023. I don't know how that all looks in regards to their plans going forward. It may change the timelines, it may change a bit. The talk was about Wolverine as well in regards to they look like they'll be in Wolverine till March or so of 2024. There's still cold air obviously to pull out, just not enough to keep everybody working. What they plan on doing is moving majority of their workforce from the Wolverine mine site over to Quintet. So my understanding from Brian is they're not looking at hundreds of new jobs or new people within the community. It's 30-ish or an under is kind of the number. And I mean, that number can change, in my opinion, from their side. So that's kind of what they're looking for. There's some updates they want to do to the plant at Quintet and stuff. So that process, I imagine, is going to start. They do have some people out there looking through the mine site now. The other thing is some railroad work needs to be done to the loadout. I guess, and the other thing I said in the meeting, and I don't ever speak on behalf of council, so I want council to be aware of that. I'm not saying that we're all going to support them, but I did say if they needed anything to reach out to council. My job is that. I do not, it's obviously something council would vote on, but, whether they need help going to the government for certain things, whether it's transportation, tickets and permits to haul their equipment from Wolverine over to Quintet, and stuff like that. But I just told them that just to approach council, and to me, that's our debate that we would have. But my belief is council does support that. So, Any questions? I have lots. I just didn't read the whole list. If anybody wants to read it, it's in my office. We have a very good minute taker. Ms. Curry takes our minutes when we have meetings, especially with mine when I have them with Tech and Kanuma. But same for yourselves when you have meetings with Health Task Force and so on. Ms. Curry will be taking minutes, so it's a 3-page minute document, so feel free to read that. I think we can publish it in the minutes for this meeting so that residents can read it if they wish. There was nothing from Brian's side or Lisa's side that they said that couldn't be public. So, is there any questions in regards to that? Okay, just a heads up from council for council as well. I've reached out to all of our First Nation partners and have tried to set up meetings with myself, lunch meetings, whatever. My first meeting will be this week with McLeod Lake. And I'll just keep council updated. Again, just introductions and go from there and then see if we can, whether some of council will go down to McLeod Lake or West Mole or Soto or Kelly Lake. Instead of them always having to come to Tumbler, I think we need to reach out to them as well. So, okay. No other council's business. So just from council side of the business too, I know we're doing, or you guys should be starting your liaison positions. This is where you would update that. If you have anything to update from those meetings. You will also be receiving an email from Ms. Torval in regards to a sheet that needs to be filled out. And I want those filled out after every meeting. And what it does, you just send it to council and please CC our CAO on it. But it just keeps everybody up to date on what's going on at your guys' meetings and stuff like that. So we know. Okay. Okay, and I've lost my other sheet, but I'll take a motion for closed. If somebody wants to read that. Sorry? Oh, sorry, thank you. Question and answer period. Ms. Torval? Okay, thank you. Thanks, Chief Curry. Resolution to a closed meeting. Councillor Dussault.
That the January 16th, 2023 council meeting be closed to the public to permit discussion of items relating to labor relations or other employee relations pursuant to subsection 91C of the Community Charter, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land improvements, if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality pursuant to subsection 91E of the Community Charter, and information that is prohibited or information that if were presented in a document would be prohibited from disclosure under section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act pursuant to subsection 91J of the Community Charter.
Seconder. Councillor Hoffman. All in favor? Carried. 5-minute recess. Oh, yeah. to Jan Legaspi and Guy Dyer for lot expansion to 16 Milan Place. Take adjournment of the open. Councillor Dussault?
Oh, which,
The 15 point, oh no, you're in the wrong one. I'll just make the recommendation that January 16, 2023 regular council meeting be adjourned. Seconder, Councillor Noberry, all in favor? Carried. All right. Thank you guys. Enjoy your time down there. Learn lots. We expect a
Thank you.
4-page report, eh?